Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of In Conversation With. Today, we are honored to have Morgan Tweet from Ind Hemp join us. And we're going to talk about Ind Hemp and the Hemp Feed Coalition and the industry in general. So welcome, Morgan. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Erica. Great to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. So let's start with a little bit. I feel like everybody in this industry should already know who Ind Hemp is, but assuming that there may be somebody out there that is not familiar, please give us a little background.
Well, I appreciate that. We are an industrial hemp company located just outside of Great Falls, Montana, and we process industrial hemp grain and fiber for food, feed, and materials. And we have been able to grow some significant acres in the past 5 years. And so I'd like to think we have pretty large footprint and understanding of the industrial applications and production. And we are mission driven and farmer focused and really have a passion for creating innovative solutions, connecting American farmers with, pioneers in the industry that really see hemp as a way to create lasting change in their communities.
That's amazing. So you do both feed and fiber. Which side of that equation, like right now, do you see as having the most potential or being the most profitable?
Fiber is kind of an easier vision, I think, to see into in terms of the attention and opportunity right now. It's a little bit, it's the hot topic to find, sustainable materials, anything from building materials to composites and plastics to textiles. Everyone is looking for a natural sustainable alternative. So that one kind of is an easier win to see into the future there. But historically, if you look at where commodities have really had an opportunity to play at scale, feed is at the foundation of that turning point. So, when you look at even the ethanol or renewable fuels movements, those all had these feed byproduct opportunities. And so they may not be the sexy part of the supply chain that people talk about, but they're absolutely critical. And so I think that we can't, go on without talking about the massive impact that a feed derived or hemp derived feed application and feed opportunity would have to the industry as a whole.
Interesting. So I think what you're saying is that the seed production side for even a primary human consumption side really can't thrive until there's markets for the leftover products from production as animal feed, or are you talking about purpose growing grain for feed?
Well, sorry, you asked me still what was feed or fiber. So yes, food is a part of that food feed supply chain. And I do think when you add that, component into it is the opportunity for plant-based proteins, sophisticated amino and fatty acids, things that are unique to the hemp grain. When you add that into just the scalable opportunity for feed additives, that's really impactful as well. Those are more complicated markets to address, but you see consistent growth in plant-based proteins and just the food sector in general. The more they are more capital and technically advanced in the requirement to address those markets. So I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of slowdown in the growth of conversion. It's going to take people, being a little bit more creative. And I think we see the consumer basis becoming more educated as well. It's true, the hemp tax, it follows us wherever we go. So getting consumers, unfortunately, we still have people who don't want to buy a bag of hemp hearts because they have a drug test every month with their employer. Little things like that, us that are in the industry know that that's just ridiculous. But it's a reality that the consumer basis still has a ways to go for education. But I think fundamentally, there's only so many hemp hearts society can eat. But when you get hemp hearts into other foods, the milks, the creamers, the margarines, in the back of a pasta, box, or in Campbell's soup. These are where we're finding other plant-based proteins that are kind of like sneakily coming in. So there's no reason that hemp can't follow the same path.
Yeah, I've noticed recently, like some major brands like Herbal Essences and Old Spice, and some big brands like that are using hemp oil in their cosmetic products, and I haven't been able to figure out where they're sourcing that stuff from. But I have a feeling it's probably not from the United States. Um,
Yeah, the unfortunate part probably there is, it's just a cost game. And there's definitely countries all over the world that have been doing this longer than we have. They have an easier cost of goods to manage. So we are limited with just the economic opportunity that like we can play in. A lot of that I think is fundamentally driven to like what we have to pay farmers to convert their commodity. So we're competing, even though like in Montana, we're not a corn and soy state. That's not like our staple. We're wheat, which is definitely a much easier crop to compete with. But still, like I have to compete with the incumbent commodity. And so our price point for the yields of the genetics that are there right now, it just is, it's pretty cumbersome, and like we can't compete at a price point with oil that's being imported from China, let's say. But if you look at canola, which is a really good kind of case study, when the canola genetics continue to improve through, breeding and hybrid work and others, and they were able to double and triple their yields, they started to be able to get their commodity price down to being, more cost competitive, and that opened more markets for them. So I'm not surprised that hemp is, on a similar trajectory. We have to pay a premium because farmers just aren't getting as much yield as they expect with the other, known varieties and known commodities. And so when we can make improvements there, that's really when we can start reducing pricing. And fundamentally, like, just to be clear, I'm not trying to say the farmer needs to make less money, right? We're a farmer focused business. We want them to be successful. We want this to be a valuable crop to them. But we also know that the supply chain can only support so much of a cost of good. And so to bring that down, we need to see yields up so that the gross amount that a farmer is getting off of a field is competitive with, competitive crops.
right. So how have the farmers been receptive to the idea? Was it hard to convince them, or were they eager? And, have they enjoyed the experience so far?
Yeah, farmers are great. Like I was just going back through, I was doing a kind of a data analysis on the last 5 years of production, and I know all of our farmers by name and where they're located, and there's just kind of a nice walk down memory lane. We've been very blessed to have, a lot of farmers stay with us. And for sure, there's things, I've been in the tractor with a couple of these guys, and like they just let me have it, right? Of what they don't like, what happened. But ultimately, like I think that they appreciate that we're there to listen. They understand, like, there's only so much we can do with price. There's only so much we can do with storage and those sort of things. And a lot of these guys are in it for the long haul. They realize that this is something that's going to hopefully be something they pass down to the next generation to incorporate into their operations. And so most of the guys we work with are very understanding and problem solvers to a T. Harvest, definitely from the fiber side has been a challenge for us. Like we have more breakdowns than we're, excited about, that's for sure. And that just is challenging for guys. No one likes to see crops in the field longer than they were expecting, or crops in a bin longer than they were hoping. So all those things come into play. I think the crop itself and like how it grows, what it does to their soil, the inputs required, they're very happy with that. It's all the other stuff, right? Like, is the seed affordable? Are we getting paid in a good timely basis? Is the price point where we want it? Like, am I hauling grain at the right time? Those are all things that like, they're always, I think, gonna have opportunities to voice their concerns.
Right.
But the crop itself, I think, is been doing a really good job.
That's awesome to hear. And what about the current state of regulations? How is that impacting the farmer with the permitting and the background checks and the mandatory chemical testing?
it's a thing. Like some people just kind of gloss over it and like, it's just like the way it is and don't worry about it. But it's not, you know, I have every year I have farmers that like it is the sticking point. They do not grow with me because they don't want to do that. Whether it's the price of the licensing fee, the fact that they got to go get a background check, or they just don't want some government agent, you know, showing up on their field to do a test, like one or all of the above is just too much. And so I don't get growers because of those reasons. Most of the time we're able to work through it, but like I have a full-time agronomist. That's all he does is handhold and walk through and manage these contracts and manage these growers. And it's, a good portion of his time, especially like during contract season, like right now, is having those conversations. And then he also, manages through the season. So a lot of times our Department of Agriculture, they're the ones who are managing the program. And so they have the same person, out doing tests and coordinating when those samples are sent off. We do a lot of that hand holding with our farmers, just because we're trying to take as much of a burden off of them as possible. So like, if I can take a phone call, if I can go make sure that like, hey, a sample needs to be retaken because of whatever, we try to do that as a company so that it's not another burden to our growers.
That's awesome. And it's a good lesson too of the importance of helping guiding them through that, because this is not what they're used to when they're growing other traditional commodities, and kind of highlights the importance of something like the Industrial Hemp Act that will aim to like reduce these burdens and get industrial hemp as close to traditional agriculture as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the fiber side, so what do you guys, you do full scale decortication, but you're also producing products with those raw materials, or are you primarily selling the raw materials to other manufacturers, or what are you doing there? I saw a bucket and some like amazing stuff coming out of you guys.
Yeah, I'm remiss that I don't have all my products here to show you. So we are B2B for, historically at the beginning of last year, we're about 75% B2B and 25% B2C, to consumer base. And as the year has gone on, we've continued to grow our direct sale opportunities. And so now we're about 50-50, honestly. We have two brands that we have stood up. And one is in a farm and ranch channel. It's called Hemptana. And kind of our staple product is an animal bedding, a horse bedding. But we are able to complement that with our equine supplements, which we're really excited about those. And so Hemptana is sort of like that workhorse for us and does a lot of volume there. And then we also have another brand called All Walks, which is started as a small pet bedding. So your hamsters, gerbils, selling it on Chewy and e-commerce is sort of where we're targeting those. But we're growing that into have an equine space as well. We're partnering with a group on the East Coast to get into your more, we call bougie horses, right? Your dressage and other, that Greg always says it's the people who are wearing helmets versus the people who are wearing cowboy hats. We sell bedding to both. So that's our consumer facing brands. But then our bulk orders, we do a lot of work with Hemp Texture. We do a lot of work with them for their insulation materials. We have some other converters that use our product in their non-woven lines. Automotive, we've been working, we had an opportunity to bid an automotive contract. Fortunately, didn't make that one, but that was exciting to at least be considered. And we did, ship out some material for that. We are big on biocomposites, and so we're going to be showing at the National Plastics Expo in Orlando next week, first week of May. So it's really cool, right? We all know that hemp can do so many things, and then from like a manufacturing position to be able to look at the diversity of industries and diversity of partners that we have down on the supply chain, it's really impressive to just see how far along the hemp plant can go. And anyone from talking to us about urine saturation in our kitty litter to someone who's converting, our heart product to a milk product, it's pretty impressive that it all came from the same field.
Wow. That's really impressive. How do you juggle everything?
It's a good question. No, I'm super fortunate to have an amazing team. We definitely have invested pretty significantly both in our infrastructure and in our team. Ind Hemp has a little less than 50 employees right now. And and we're all running, with our hair on fire all the time. Just in the last year and a half, I was, promoted to our CEO. My dad sort of took a step back. And so I've been sort of transitioning in my role and understanding, how to delegate and working on building our team up. So I'm really fortunate to just have great team members. They're passionate about the opportunity. They're great at just, digging in and trying to find solutions for us. We do a lot of product development. That was something that I don't think quite everyone appreciates one, the bandwidth and time that it takes to do that. And but also I think it's a great opportunity for the plant that we do have a chance to continuing to be innovative. That keeps it exciting for your customers. It keeps it exciting for your employees. Case in point, we have a really good partner for our farm and ranch channel that we've developed over the last 2 years. We're adding storefronts every day. Like, it's great for us. Well, we went to one of their shows in the first of the year, and we brought some of these products that we're developing for like a home and garden channel. So we've been coming up with some tree mats and some weed barrier and some mulch applications, because all of the physical characteristics of the products, that hemp does on the fiber side are really, really effective in the home and garden space. And so it's really fun to be able to go to this show and like have these products that have been in development for us the last 6 months and see the excitement, right? We've won them over with Hemp Tana, and they trust us as a supplier, and they're just excited to see that we're growing our line, so that they know that they can come to us with other things. And then it's fun to be able to see them say like, hey, have you ever thought of this? Like, this is something you can do, and this is something you can do. And so it feels a little bit like the sky's the limit. You do have to divide and conquer and, remain focused. And so, for round numbers, we had about 60 to 70 ideas in our idea bank for product development last year. We took 5 of them to commercialization. So, the percentage of what you can actually convert into a finished product is relatively small, but we still have all of those things sort of in development and think that'll be an ongoing process.
Wow. So for those products that aren't like directly like heard, like the bedding and stuff, are you producing them, or are you like contracting with other manufacturers to actually produce the finished good, or are you doing it all yourselves?
So our products that leaving our decortication facility, the only finished good is the bagged bedding products. So we have 4 different sizes of compressed sealed bags. And so that's, we have the branded, and then we have the white label opportunity. So call it 8 to 10 SKUs of like ready to go finished product. And that's on the herd side. And then on fiber, we have 3 different qualities of fiber that we make. We call them platinum, gold, and bronze. And they have different applications that they work in, some better than others. So I don't want to say one's better than another. We've just found that, one grade of fiber works better for a different converter and so forth. So the fiber is being used by, if for our products, a good example is we have a chicken nesting mat that complements our bedding. We sell our fiber to a group up in Canada, Biocomposites Group. They have a nonwoven line. They make our mats for us. We buy those mats back, and we put our Allwax or our Hemp Tana branded, packaging on them, and we work with our distributor to get them there. So there's a lot of those opportunities that are, we work with a co-manufacturer to help convert them. Some of those lawn and garden products, same sort of thing, where we're working with another converter. We sort of have this mantra of like being our customer's customer, because a lot of times either a customer doesn't know that they can use hemp, and you need to provide them an opportunity to pull the hemp through their supply chain. And if they do know how to use hemp, a lot of times there's not a confidence in the supply chain that they can consider hemp as a real, ingredient or material for their line. Case in point about, that automotive opportunity that we had, we've been working with this partner for several years and like cultivating the relationship. And so they knew that we were here, and we'd sent them samples. We've done a couple one-off orders, but it wasn't until like we gave them an opportunity. We wanted some erosion control mats made for some things. And so we proved to them through that order that we can meet their level of quality, consistency, all the things. And then they were able to then go off and bid that automotive opportunity because they knew that they had the confidence in our supplier. So that's just sort of the growing pains of understanding like where your key partners are and developing those relationships and being our customer. It's always much easier to convince someone to try your product when you're going to buy whatever they give back to you.
Yeah, definitely de-risk it for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have concerns? I mean, I guess it's happy trouble, but like, do you foresee a time where like you can't meet your own demand?
Yeah, I would love to know that. I mean, like, definitely the sky's the limit. And, I sort of have a mantra of like, we just have to sort of take things like one quarter at a time. For sure, eyes on the horizon of what could be. But I think what I've seen some people get into a little bit of an issue there is if we're always thinking of like, where do we need to be in 5 years, we're out in front of our skis a little too quick. And so people like saying, well, there's been some wild claims that like we need 500 decorticators the size of, Ind Hemp if we're going to be able to supply the automotive industry. Maybe that is true. Like if we really want to get to like a 10% penetration mark or something like that, but I just need to deliver on like one order first. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
I think the point of the number, because like, yeah, like we were the ones that actually calculated that based on different reporting statistics, is that to demonstrate to investors that there is a lot of potential here and that investing in decortication does have long-term perspectives. So like your point's well taken. Like you have to live in the now moment and you have to be successful in the now moment. But
Yeah, that's my role, and that's your role to look up around the horizon, right? Like ours is just like like our heads down, like trying to execute and to build that confidence and in one order at a time. So, it's great to have NHA there to be able to look up and have those conversations with investors, because when we get to the point where I want to be at 10% market penetration, I need people there to help fund it, right? I need them to be confident there too. So.
yeah, well, and we need you to point to and saying like, look, it's being done. It can be done. Look at the rural impact, some of your statistics and just like seeing in person what your presence in Fort Benton has meant. You can't put a price tag on that, right? There's certain things that, yeah, the nuts and bolts of a business, but the impact on people's lives is something that you just really can't quantify.
Yeah.
And I know we're coming up on time here, but I did want to, touch on top of everything else that you do. You're also the executive director of the Hemp Feed Coalition, and there's been some like really fantastic developments coming out of there. So can you just share a little bit about what's happening with HFC and what's on the horizon?
Yeah, no, appreciate it. So HFC, for those who don't know, it's a nonprofit organization, and it's made up of lots of people through the hemp supply chain, other processors, seed suppliers, equipment suppliers, buyers, feed manufacturers, a pretty diverse group of board members and just members in general. And they all have the same mission, which is to open feed markets for the industrial hemp crop, and most specifically grain, since that's where we see the highest nutritional opportunity. And so we've been really focused the last 3.5 years on getting our first application in with AFCO, which is the Animal Feed Control Officials. And they work with FDA CVM to assess new applications and new ingredients before allowing it on the market. You and I have a chance to have a diverse diet every day, but animals a lot of times are eating the same thing every day for their whole life. And so understandably, there's a lot of stringent demand on understanding those nutritional ingredients and then their impact in the animal's life. So hemp does not have current approval to be incorporated in animal feed. And yet we've been able to prove both with additional literature outside of the United States, and then some specifically designed feed studies here in the United States, to show the value of hemp seed meal as a laying hen, a feed additive for protein, up to about 20% inclusion. And so we did get a tentative definition submitted in January. It got approved by the first committee, went on to the board. The board approved it about a month ago. And then in August, it's going to be voted on by full membership, which will allow for a tentative definition, which is pretty exciting. You know, we don't have enough time to go into all the things that that means or took to get there. But ultimately, our goal is to get, you know, hemp fed eggs. And just for, you know, those who don't know, hemp, you know, does have a really unique fatty acid profile and a higher omega content at the right ratio of 6:3. And we see that positive nutritional opportunity transferring into the egg. And so, you know, a better egg, like you can go to store shelves today and you can see, you know, omega enriched eggs and things like that. So there is a consumer demand already, a conscious consumer that wants a better derived egg. And we believe that hemp can do that, can provide that for consumers.
That's excellent and great work. And to your point, it's been over 3 years in the making, and there's a whole bunch of species left to go in terms of getting the studies and the applications done. So anybody out there listening, go to hempfeedcoalition.org and support this group. They're doing amazing work with proven results, and there's a lot more work to do. So with that, thank you so very much for your time. We've loved having you and look forward to hearing more as things progress, and hope we can do this again sometime.
Perfect. Thanks, Erica. Thanks for having me on.